everybody, welcome back to another edition of Building Bridges with Greg and Jill. This is Greg Johnson, and I'm with my wife, Jill Johnson. And today on Building Bridges, we have a particularly exciting and honorable guest with us today. I've had the privilege of working with this Utah political leader for about 11 plus years in his leadership role, which we're going to introduce in just a second. But we're so grateful that he could be with us and talk to us a little bit about his time at the helm of the position that he holds. And so we are grateful for that. We're looking into the fall with more editions of Building Bridges with Greg and Jill. So thankfully that we're here in September, and we're excited that we could head into the fall. We've had a very busy summer. Probably you all have as well. We've had two graduations, high school and college, a wedding, a granddaughter born, a college. We took our daughter to college and dropped her off. And I'm hearing, we're thinking, more news is coming, but I won't say anything more than that in our family. So that's pretty exciting. Jill, you want to greet our audience?
Hi, it's great to be with you. We are looking forward to a new season of podcast, and we're excited about our guest today.
Yeah. So let's do it. Without further ado, Attorney General Sean Reyes, the 19th, 21st Attorney General of the state of Utah.
This is trivial knowledge, not something you need to know. But first of all, congratulations to both of you on all of the exciting stuff.
It was epic.
Weddings and new members of the family coming.
Yes.
And graduations.
We're like a family of 10 now with the two granddaughters and the two new sons-in-laws.
And truly, because I know your family.
Well, we have two, but
we do have two.
the maybe in number, but the impact that you all have is exponential. So I'm sure wherever you go.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, Sean, they have not chosen to remain in the great state of Utah. We have one in New Jersey. We have one in Northern California. We have one in Southern California now. We have one in Oregon. So
I'm all about exporting the goodness that we have here all over the place.
How many kids do you have?
I've got 6. Unfortunately, the older 3 they've decided to stay in Utah. So we've
married
enticed
yet?
them. Our number 2, he's married. Yeah, he's 24. Amazing. It's always awesome when they're like you actually love. We love our daughter-in-law even more than him. We love him to
Wait
pieces.
till the grandkids come.
Yes, I try not to put any pressure on them. But I'm like, hey, what are you two thinking? So they're fantastic. And
now you were about to say something about the 3 older ones. What were you going to say?
No, they've stayed here in Utah.
Okay.
So we've. As much as I like exporting the coolness and the goodness of Utah, all other things being equal, we love having them
local.
Yeah. We do a lot of travel.
Yeah.
That's what so far.
That's what our
the
travel
plan.
is to go see the kids.
Go see them over there. Wow.
Yeah.
But you have 3 in the home still.
One is on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Austin, Texas, Spanish speaking over there.
Okay.
So he just got there.
Oh wow!
He graduated last year from high school, so we have a junior and a freshman still at home.
Yeah,
nice.
They've outgrown me. It's feeling like empty nest time is getting pretty close.
And then it comes, and all of a sudden you go, okay, now what?
Yeah.
So, Attorney General Reyes, you've been in this position. You were appointed by Governor Herbert when your predecessor resigned. And you had to do a special election the next year to finish out that term, and then 2 years later,
another election. There's lots of elections.
Yeah. So the word is out. Everybody knows that you're not running again, and you're heading to private life. What does the future look like for you? Do you have any plans?
Well, First of all, the family
you want to announce
so
yet?
excited about that decision. I think they were ready a while back, but when you're able to do some good things in office, you want to keep making a difference every way that you can. To answer your question, I promise I'm not being like just coy or political. I don't know 100% yet. There are lots of opportunities, family offices, funds, foundations, firms. They all have come and talked to me, and I have to be careful about not doing anything legally, officially yet, but really exciting opportunities to capitalize on a lot of different experiences that God's allowed me to have in different fields. And then The other factor is I literally am trying to file so many cases. When you're coming up to in the fourth quarter and there's an urgency to like some of the cases, I thought, well, when I get the chance to, we can attack that issue or address this. And so now is the time. We filed one that could be the most important case of the time that I've been in office and maybe in the whole history of public lands. It's a massive Supreme Court case that has widespread implications, kind of historical context, and again, that was one that I'd been
that's been much in the news right now. Utah's lands are what,
almost 70%
controlled by the
federal government. And there are many other states in the West that are similarly situated. And again, the ownership in and of itself is not perhaps the most difficult part. It's that they don't let us manage. They cut off access. There's a lot of government policies that come from Washington, D.C. that reflect none of the actual realities of what's going on the ground and the needs of locals and counties and cities and ranchers and farmers and enthusiasts who want to use that for recreation and hiking and biking and all of those things. And they just say, you can't do anything. So not to get too deep in that, but in case your many listeners or viewers want to understand, is this a land grab? Are they just trying to grab? No. Imagine this, because this is how I explained it to my 14-year-old, and he was like, okay, now I get it. If you're a homeowner next to some other homeowners in a beautiful neighborhood and you create an HOA, right, the Homeowners Association, to do what? Well, to manage the pickleball courts and the swimming pools, the things that people all have in common. And there may be some rules that the HOA is allowed to promulgate that affect your house. Like you can't park 6 pickup trucks on your front lawn because that's an eyesore. So you're okay with that. But imagine over time, the HOA just kept giving itself more and more and more power until one day you woke up and the HOA owns 70% of your property. Not just, you're fine letting them manage the pickleball courts and the pool, but they're like, no, I own 70%, including your house, your yard. You can't, this is when you can garden, this is when you can eat, you can't access your bedrooms. Your lawn is dying and dead, and you're like, hey, I'd love to, spend my own money and rehabilitate. No, that's our responsibility, but they won't do anything about it. And it's the HOA, and this analogy is the federal government, and over years, they've continued to expand more and more and more power, but not do what they were intended to do, which is help care for and manage the properties. And we give up hundreds of millions of dollars annually in not being able to capitalize on that. The federal government, by the way, is already, they're the ones who are leasing for mineral exploration and exploitation. So it's not like we're trying to create more, mining, more things that I think there's a misperception that we're trying to, sell off these lands to the highest bidder or abuse them. We're stewards, but we're the best stewards locally here in Utah. So this has been a fight culturally for generations, and people have filed different lawsuits, and they've all kind of run against the rocky shoals of legal, defenses in the Constitution. This one we feel like is the perfect timing with the right, the right court, the right issues.
We're going to step back here a minute, but I just want to follow up on that. Like, why did it come out now? Why is this case being, brought to court now? Is there something about what Governor Cox and you and others have decided that makes it possible to do what you couldn't do before?
No, I think probably the biggest catalyst is that the federal government has just become more and more and more onerous. And in the last 2 years, they've come out with rules that are now, they used to be just horrible, but now they're untenable. These rules, if they were to go into effect, would decimate like entire ranching families throughout the state of Utah. And so the need and the pressure has become ever more imminent.
The monster of federal government has become bigger and more intimidating.
Godzilla is now,
it's grown to full size.
It is full size. And if you don't do something now, when would we? Plus, I don't have a lot of time left. And I've been kind of the shepherd and the steward for the legal side on this. And so with the governor's support and the legislature, and bipartisan support from many people saying, yeah, we think, whether we're Republican or Democrat, that we should be in charge of managing and caring for and preserving our land and our way of life here on the land. So,
well, we will definitely all be attentive to that here in Utah, because I think it's a very important matter that you are dealing with, and one that has, like you said, for years been not dealt with effectively.
If you remember, when I came into office, that triggered a huge conflagration with the Bundy family, because in Nevada, all of those ranching families had been wiped out. And Cliven Bundy and his family were left the only ones standing. And the federal government, again, came in and said, let's add insult to injury. We're going to confiscate all your cattle for not paying grazing fees, even though we've taken away everything else. And they made a stand. And there were thousands of militia armed that had come in from all sorts of other states. And there was a standoff, and you had BLM with armed agents and a helicopter. And Governor Herbert at the time was away. He was in Mexico. Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox and the new Attorney General, yours truly, get sent down by the governor down there. And we're literally standing in between these like volatile forces. And I think Spencer and I looked at each other at one point and said, if somebody sneezes wrong, like this is like Waco, like I mean, this whole powder keg is going to explode. And our job is to try to talk down the BLM from literally going in and trying to take the cattle, which would have escalated, and who knows what would have happened. But that was, and
he was the father was killed, wasn't he? In that
eventually, there were tragic, there were deaths from some of the Bundy family, and but that is kind of the level of anxiety that exists in parts of Utah right now. There are families saying, you know what, if the federal government doesn't change or get out of here, they're more upset than perhaps even the Bundys were at that point. At least that's what our sheriffs.
And then is your hope that your predecessor would then be as passionate about this as you are?
Sure.
I mean,
whoever comes in and is my successor,
I'm sorry.
No, I get.
Successor,
He will, or she will, or whomever it is, I pray, will have that same passion. It's a Republican state, so the Republican candidate Derek Brown is a good friend, and I think he has shown a penchant for pushing back against the federal government. There are other good candidates and have been in this whole Attorney General race during this cycle, but if it is Derek, I am confident that he'll be a warrior and a fighter.
Well, I wanted you to know that this podcast is called Building Bridges with Greg and Jill. So we're not going to solve the problems of ranching and land usage today, but the principles of building bridges, which are establishing common ground, listen more than you talk, engage, look for opportunities to build relationship and all that, are kind of what we're about. And I think you, in your tenure as Attorney General, have been a great example of a bridge builder too. You have certainly reached out to our community, which is kind of the evangelical Christian community. So I'd like to ask you to kind of tell the story of how this thing, I don't know if it has an official, I mean, we call it the AG Evangelical Leadership Task Force. I don't know if that's what you just call it, ad hoc, but it sounds pretty impressive. And we've enjoyed meeting with you twice a year for 11 years, I think, from the very beginning. You tapped us, and we got to come in and be a sounding board and get some input and to some various issues that are related to family, drug abuse, opioids, suicide, so many things that you've shared with our pastors and leaders that we've been able to kind of not only learn about, but then become advocates and eyes on the ground for you in the state of Utah. So I don't think many people would know this, that there is some kind of a gathering that the Attorney General of Utah does with a group of evangelical pastors a couple times a year. It's really remarkable. I mean, I'm telling you, there are Bible states like Texas and Alabama, Mississippi. I'm sure that the evangelical church doesn't have a task force with the Attorney General, but we do here in Utah.
Well, first of all, let me say my colleagues in those states are amazing, and no reflection on them. But yes, we do have a special relationship. And first of all, I want to thank you, Greg, because you've been the linchpin, and Jill, supporting Greg and standing side by side with him. We couldn't have done it without the two of you. Let's say done it is helping to educate so many people throughout the state of Utah on these challenges, whether they're social, economic, political, and you have been an amazing partner for our office. And that's really what there should be. Government should stay lean and out of the way and do what it's intended to do. Government has a tendency, and I don't mean to get too, involved in civic discourse, but government likes to keep, like the HOA example, you just keep letting it go at its own devices. Pretty soon they're running everything. Mm-hmm. And in order to keep government lean, what we need to do is find those partnerships, whether it's with the business community or the academic community or the NGO space. So nonprofits, the faith community has been so great. And you have, spiritual leaders who are amazing in their own right, and they have their own ministries and their congregations. And it's an honor for us to be able to educate them about what tools and resources we have. But then it's so important, and where the value for us has come in is then you all, like you said, have gone out as advocates to help wake people up and educate them, whether it has been, social media issues and the impact on young people, human trafficking and exploitation of other forms. Our ICAC teams have consulted with you all, and you've really helped bring that out, this teen suicide and other forms of depression. And when we have an app, Safe UT app, which was, one of its kind and kind of really a pioneering technology, it was through your hands and the ministers and the pastors who are part of our group that really grassroots got that, on the ground to schools and to neighborhoods and to their community. So for us, it has been a wonderful, remarkable, blessed, and miraculous relationship. Don't want to burst your bubble. We meet with other faiths that come in, so it's not exclusive to the evangelical community.
I didn't think
we have
so.
rabbis, and imams, and others that we meet. However, none of them have formed as big of a group as y'all have. And I've got a son, like I said, who's on a mission in a state that's got a lot of evangelicals, and many of them. Like they do for a lot of other kids who come from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Take them under their wings, they feed them, they care for them, they house them. And that kind of brotherly love, we wanted to reciprocate. So when I came in, having come from a very diverse, multi-religious family, multicultural family, I was like, the more the merrier. I need everyone's perspectives. And I wanted you all to have a seat at the table. I know what it's like to not feel like you have a seat at the table. Growing up as a minority, a lot of different ways, you feel voiceless. And I, from the beginning, wanted to, knowing your ability to, which preceded our relationship. You've been doing this with leaders of the LDS faith and bringing the cultures and the common beliefs together. You've done that well. So I thought, I might as well take advantage of what your experience was, Jill, what pastors was, and bring standing together to be a resource for the state. Now, some people were like, "What? You're going to do what?" And I won't say who. Why are you bringing all these? Some of them don't even think that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are even real Christians. And I said, well, that may be the case, and there are some bigoted Mormons that don't want to deal with others. This guy and this woman, I know, and they're elect choice people of God, and let's figure out a way to work together, and you made it happen. You brought I thought you were going to bring 5 or 6 the first time, and you brought like 30 of them, and they were all, ready to roll up their sleeves and help.
Well, they were honored. They were honored throughout the course of the 11 years. The faces have changed. Some are kind of going, but I think it is truly an honor, because I think what you just said is so important to respond to, that in the state of Utah, for many years, and whenever this is the case, it's the case. If you're in deep South Georgia or Alabama, Mississippi, the LDS community is a vast minority there. In contrast to the state of Utah, and we, the evangelical community, are the vast minority here in this religious majority culture, and it is oftentimes very easy for the minority culture, whoever they may be, to really live with that proverbial chip on their shoulder. the system's rigged. We don't get the same opportunities. If you're not in the club, then you don't get to participate. Your kids get neglected. You don't get the job promotion. You don't get whatever. And all that kind of had been part of the reality of many non-Latter-day Saint people living in Utah, Catholics, maybe evangelicals, Protestants, and they felt that way for a long time. I would say today, and your office is a great example of this, that there is a better sense today. And I think the personal friendship that I had with Governor Herbert. He too was a great example of this, where a lot of faith leaders that are not of the LDS Church, but also the LDS Church, absolutely, felt more welcomed, more invited, more included, and given kind of an opportunity to sit at the table, like you just said. And we have enjoyed the opportunity. We've enjoyed the honor. We've enjoyed the privilege of serving and praying for you and praying for our state leaders, Governor Cox, and the legislature and the judiciary. Every first Thursday of May, we have a very special breakfast called the National Day of Prayer, where you've spoken and other political leaders. We pray for the leaders, as is the mandate of a biblical passage that says, pray for your leaders. So we do that. And it really is an amazing thing, because you have broken that mold a little bit. I think there was a time when pastors were shocked that we were having these invitations. Now they're like, oh, we're meeting with the Attorney General again? It's like, let me see if I have time.
That's right.
Well, what I have loved is that it has not just been you saying, let me give you what I'm working on and have you help me, but it's also been very reciprocal. And you've come to those meetings to say, hey, can you guys tell me what's going on in your congregations? What are people talking about? What are you struggling with? And the conversation has been both ways. So when you say we wanted you to have a seat at the table, we really did feel like you were listening and that our voice was important to you and important to the state of Utah. So
well, thank you. And you've been so gracious. These pastors, and they've invited me to speak at their congregations and commune with their people and be part of their families. And it's been such a privilege to be able to travel around the state, some farther than others. I mean, we would go, and just feel that love. I mean, if nothing else, if we can just generate more true love, reflect that from the Savior, and I think miracles happen.
Well, I think to speak to the arrangement of a bridge building example in a political context, faith leaders and political leaders, you say, well, a lot of people feel that those things don't mix very well, that the faith community should not be engaged with government leaders, and we should be independent of them and not, be totally uninvolved in some of those things. And that is not my opinion. I think we can serve and we should honor and participate. And we don't participate with Republicans only. We respond. We've had in the past, our ministry has interacted with the former mayor of Salt Lake, Rocky Anderson, on a couple of important occasions, particularly when her name is escaping me momentarily, the young lady, Elizabeth Smart. We had some interactions with his office during that season of desperation for her recovery, and that was a remarkable thing that she was discovered and found and rescued, and that was kind of a cool thing. But all along, the idea that we can acknowledge, Latter-day Saints live in Utah and they love Utah, and Protestants live in Utah and they love Utah, and Catholics live and atheists live in Utah and they love Utah, and we want to say to everybody, the state is a better place when everybody is given a chance. We do run by majority rule in our voting and whatnot, but at the flip side, we always the great thing about our democracy and our republic is that we give a voice to minorities. And when that doesn't happen, and we've seen that in our communities, like I said, in the South or in the Northeast, there are times when we've heard many sad stories from our LDS friends that they weren't treated very nicely. They weren't included. They weren't given opportunity. And we've been advocates for that. My friend Robert Millett from BYU, the former dean of religion, grew up in the Deep South, and he has some really rough stories about being a Latter-day Saint when he was a kid, And I think he came to Utah and he said, I'm not going to be that guy. And not only that, I'm going to reach out to the evangelical community, and we became friends, and it opened up many doors. So I hope our audience is hearing the larger theme here, that if, right in our neighborhood, General Reyes, we have a devout Muslim family that lives next door. We have a family that would be irreligious but kind of slightly Buddhist to our left, and we have a mixed marriage of a former Buddhist and a former Latter-day Saint across the street, and a lot of variety in our street.
Sounds like a family reunion from one of my family gatherings.
Little this, little that, you know.
Yeah.
And you know what? We all love Cinnabar Street. You know, we all love our street. We all love our neighborhood, and we care for one another. We may disagree theologically. We may disagree politically. We might have some real strong opinion, but there's no reason why we can't love one another, respect one another,
Be a reflection
communicate,
of Christ.
and be a reflection of those faith values that we say we proclaim.
Absolutely. One funny thought just came because there's a great bishop here of the Catholic Church in Salt Lake, one of my favorite religious leaders in the world. But he asked me, like, how did you, when we first met, I mean, you seem to know a lot about the Catholic Church. I said, yeah, my father was Catholic. I grew up, between Mass and LDS services. And kind of jokingly, my dad said, I think you'd still be Catholic if the Mormon girls weren't so pretty in the neighborhood, because that seemed to draw you away. Because he said Catholic church is only about 40 minutes. Mormon church is really long.
Back in the
old, it's like all day long, it seemed like.
Split services and things
and he
like
said,
that, yeah.
but I understand, I married a Mormon girl too, so I get it, son. But I think it's a strength to have, and as Utah diversifies more.
Yeah.
And I think diversity is a good thing. I think artificial political, diversification maybe is not, but having a multitude of different people of good faith, goodwill, with different perspectives, it's amazing. And so again, I want to congratulate you all, because that's what the strength that you all have brought and kept to Utah, and that's what you're exporting out with your kids everywhere. Because it's not that way. You're right. It's not.
Well, and again, we can only do what we're doing because people like you are willing to partner with us. So it's a two-way street. I once had a conversation with Elder Uchtdorf of the LDS Church, and he talked about the concept of the bridge, because I wrote a book with Bob Millett called Bridging the Divide, and he said, I very much like this picture of the bridge. And he said, we can come out on the bridge for a photo op and just take a few pictures together, and then you go your way and I'll go my way. But that's not bridge building. That's just, showmanship or whatever. But when we come onto the bridge, we actually have to sit down and talk to one another and get to know each other and be familiar with each other. So it was a good example of what bridges do. It connects people over ravines and over conflict and over difficulties. You can't just get over that area without a bridge. So you make a bridge.
I hope you didn't tell Elder Uchtdorf that we always kneel down and pray when you come to my office because I've never done that with the LDS.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you, I haven't told him that, but I sure wouldn't be shy to if I had the chance.
that was
another great quality.
I got to say, when you guys first came, and it was spontaneous, but.
We brought you some Arnold Freeberg prints.
You did, and and they're still up in the office, and well wishes, but it was just, hey, let's pray, and it happened so fast, and we were on our knees, and there was such a spirit there.
Well, I have to give, Jill knows this story, but I have to give you the credit for that. 2 evangelical pastors in the office of the Attorney General in Utah, and he says to us, you said to us, you guys want to pray before you go? And we're like, hey, this is cool. Yeah, sure, we'd love to pray with you. Do you guys ever pray on your knees? And we're like, yeah. Okay, let's get on our knees. And I'm like, this is an attorney general right here, man. This is a guy that...
if you knew what I was dealing with when I took over that office at that time...
What would you say are some of... You're coming to the end of a term, and we don't have a ton of time left, but what are some of the highlights for you in terms of some of the accomplishments you feel good about that your office, your leadership, your staff, your team has been able to see? Top 2, 3, 4 things that you think are really things that you can walk away from this position going, I feel really proud of that.
Those are the hardest questions,
because
that's like, which of your kids do you love the most? I only have 6, and it'd be hard. I'd be hard pressed.
No, I totally get it.
There are so many things that my team, who I love and are amazing, who've given up opportunities in the private sector to make much less money, but stay with me and work hard to protect the people of Utah. I think politics sometimes can get so tribal and can get so toxic, and people can push each other away because of politics. So if I could, I'd like to focus on some things that hopefully everyone can come together on, and that's protecting kids.
Yeah.
I think some of the programs that we've been able to pioneer and bring forward, and certainly we were building on the shoulders of people who came before us. my predecessors and others in the state are amazing leaders too. Maybe not all of my predecessors and not all of the leaders, but there's certainly a large number of them, and we learned lessons from them. But so the Safe UT app, I'm bringing a couple up that you know about.
Yeah, sure.
That was game changing, because the rate of suicide.
Explain that so our listeners know what
when
you're
I
talking
came
about.
in, the number one cause of death for young people was death by suicide, and
In the state of Utah.
in the state of Utah, but also I think that was near this case in almost every state.
Yeah.
Okay.
The urgency for us was everyone wants to keep studying it and trying to figure out. While all these studies are going on and commissions and committees, our kids are dying, and we wanted to give them some tool to empower them. And so we came up with an app. In the meantime, we tried to push for a 3-digit number, which Utah wasn't ready for, but we took it nationally. And ultimately in 2020, President Trump signed the second bill that created a federal law for 988, the analog to 911. But while that whole process took place in Utah, we brought forward an app that was free to all kids, and they could, in an emergency or crisis, text in. And here was the magic. The app itself wasn't anything, so amazing in terms of the architecture of the app, but it was having people on the other side, therapists who were the best in the world, who were trained and could talk them proverbially off the ledge. And whether it was suicide, or whether it was other forms of self-harm, or whether it was addiction, or whether it was an eating disorder, or just feeling depressed and like they had no one that they could turn to, we had no idea what we unleashed. And this app became, I would say, not the savior, but it has saved many lives, but it just became an incredible miracle for thousands of kids. One of the benefits that we had no idea we would be opening up was, as kids saw violence at school, they started to text in. And I think there have been near, if not more than, over the last, since 2014 and the debut of the app, close to 1,000 reports in from kids of a gun, a bomb, a knife, or other weapon at school, where had we not known about. These are verified interdictions from law enforcement, where we came in and found the gun in the backpack of someone as young as a 5th grader who was getting bullied and just wanted to fight back, but was going to do it through violence. I don't know statistically if any of those, however many hundreds of situations, would have turned into a mass shooting or school shooting, but probably. And because of that one app, again, I know we've got limited time, and there are dozens of other things like that. But that was one that's really special to me, because you all really helped us bring that to light.
Well, you allowed us. We were all up to the University of Utah. We were trained on it. We were given suicide prevention techniques and tips and ideas, and we were able to share that with our congregations. I know that went out through the school system, and to your another, just a little note, I know I think it was probably 2014 as well, or later, that you worked with our organization to bring Nick Vujicic. We did some major anti-bullying efforts through Park City High School, Roy High School, and some other venues that you provided. So you I think you have been a great champion of protecting our kids in Utah.
Pastor, that I can't tell you how many notes and texts and calls we've gotten received in the office that said that that kept me alive, gave me a chance, because again, it's a crisis tool. It's not the long-term solution. Kids and adults and veterans who have a very high suicide rate all need to find ways to cope with pain, and parents taking it away from them, that's a whole nother discussion, is not necessarily the solution. But kids find that in social media too often now and get trapped in that and addicted. They find it in drugs and they get addicted. They find it in many other ways, and it's a way to try to mask the pain that they have. So this is not a solution to all of that. But in the moment that they're literally standing on the edge and thinking of, and I say this from experience, and driving their car off of a cliff or taking those pills, that has been the one thing that they've known. If I can text in, someone listens, someone cares, and it's kept them on long enough for then their parents, and whether it's a bishop, a pastor, a priest, someone else to come in and love on them and then feel the love of the Savior again in their lives. That one thing alone, if we had done nothing else, I'd have been proud of, and I so appreciate how much of an impact you all in the Standing Together community have helped us with amplification of that one tool. So
Sure.
That's amazing. I am going to shift gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
You told us about a TEDx talk that you did, and I would love for you to share with our audience.
Yeah, it might
Big-
be a good
big
thing
life
to
lesson
close
here.
on
Yeah.
here with you all. So a few years back, I had been asked to give a TEDx talk. This is that's like TED Jr. It's not the big TED talk, but it's still
It's a pretty big deal.
significant.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple of those, and it's an honor to do those. It was at Utah Valley University, UVU, where my little brother is a vice president, Dr. Kyle Reyes. Like, throw a shout out. I'm so proud of him. He's got a new book about relationships and building bridges.
Oh, wow.
I'd love for you to
Yeah.
get.
Maybe
I'll
we
get
should
you a
interview
copy.
him.
Please. When people are like, "Hey, there's someone that looks like you," that we ran
And
across.
he does look like you.
I'm
I've
like,
been
if
with
he's
your
a
brother.
younger, skinnier, better looking, cooler, more fun, smarter version, then that's my little brother,
Yeah.
Dr. Kyle Reyes. He's awesome. But so we were both slated to give TEDx speeches, and as you mentioned, Pastor, they're very strict.
Oh.
They don't mess around. It's like you have this much time to speak, all these rules. And so I was outside of the green room, ready to run onto the stage. We had rehearsed. They have tape for where your mark is. And right before, and I've got sort of a pre-game ritual as I'm going there. Say a prayer, then get my former MMA, boxing, shadow boxing in. Played a little sport, a little bit of college ball, and so I'm fully in this, and I'm in the zone, and I'm envisioning myself speaking, and the phone is just, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna grab that. Finally, look, it's my mom, and I told you, average time for a call with my mom back then was hour and a half, 2 hours. There's no escape, and I loved it, but not the right time, and so I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna answer this. Put it back. In my earpiece, the TEDx folks are like, okay, General, we're counting you down now from 59 seconds, 58, and then you better be on they're going to roll the camera whether you're there or not. And this thing now, I'm like, oh man, I've never had a less than 1 minute call with my mom. Finally, like, hi mama, how are you? And of course she's like, hi, want to tell me about her day, and she's like, also, you're ready for your speech? And I said, yeah, I kind of do this for a living, I'm ready. Because when I was small, she was a speech and drama major in college.
Right.
She made me practice without notes 100 times. I mean, I had that thing memorized when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I would have to give it, and she would rate me, and we would go down. So she thinks that this is what we're going to do, and I'm like, no, Ma.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to have
30
to
seconds
walk out, and
now.
I got 30 seconds. And she's like, what about page 17? You say this. I don't know. And I'm like, no. And so I finally convinced her. I said, Mama, here's the deal. I'll call you on Sunday. This is like a Wednesday or Thursday. And I said, I'll call you on Sunday when I'm back from, Seisha and I have the kids, and we got the lottery to go down to southern Utah in this camping area, but there's no cell coverage. So why don't we wait till Sunday and we'll have a proper catch up? And I said, Mama, I love you, but I really got to go. And now they're down to like 10 seconds, 9 seconds. And she says this, she says, okay, son, she said, I just want you to know how much Dad and I love you and how proud of you we are. She said, you go out there and do what God put you on this earth to do. And at that point, I had the confidence of Samson and Hercules all combined. And I went out and gave the speech. You can still hear it, or it's on TED Talk. I don't know how many dozen people have probably watched it over the years.
Probably a few more than that.
I went down and we were camping and we had a great time. But what I didn't realize was that Governor Herbert was desperately trying to find me. He had actually had some of the state police trying to locate me because he was such a caring friend. And what I didn't know until somehow my sister's text pinged down through all the red rock and miraculously got to my phone. We had received no other text, but it said, "Sean, please get home. Mom's on life support. We're waiting to let her go until you come." What? I just talked to her. She was healthy. She had visited us recently. And what I didn't realize that was she had a little accident and a brain bleed, and unexpected to everyone, she was all of a sudden unresponsive, and they were going to pull the plug, and they were waiting. But no one could find me because no one could reach me.
Yeah.
And so we were able to make it home. I got to LA. My parents were there. We sang all her favorite songs. My dad Tagalog songs in his native language, Hawaiian songs in her native language, English, everything. And it was the night before Easter Sunday. And so the next morning, we let her go. But I have to tell you, Jill, watching that machine as it just started to, was one of the most devastating things in my life. And afterwards, I was kind of mad at God. And I'll be honest, that was not my best moment as a Christian. And I was like, how could you let this happen? And why now and why her? I need her right now. And in those moments, probably one of the, again, worst of my life as I'm grieving, having just watched my mom's body. By the way, when we were there, she was never responsive. I think she could feel our spirit, but I had never had a chance to have a conversation with her. But I heard her voice so distinctly, like her spirit was standing next to me and I could feel it. And she said the same words to me that she did right before I went out. Just know how much we love you, how proud of you we are. And then go out and do what God put you on this earth to do, which could mean a lot of things. But to me, I was like, I know what I need to do. And I need to go out and be the best attorney general I can. I need to be the best husband and father that I can, the best Christian that I can. And hopefully that's counting. So a little life lesson. One, no matter where you are, no matter what circumstances, if I'm going out to argue in front of the United States Supreme Court, do the biggest deal of my, I used to be in the venture world, it doesn't matter. If someone you love calls, what are you going to do? Take that call and you let them know how much you love them, and take that opportunity, because it's a miracle that God gave me. Hopefully you'll have another conversation with them, but you never know. You never ever know. And what that reinforced to me is that even in our worst of times, God loves us so much. Miracles are abundant. We're just too proud or too blind or too conditioned by society and trusting in the arm of flesh to realize that these miracles are all around us. Other people call them different things. Maybe they're, tender mercies. But to me, they're miracles. And my dad always taught me as a boy, we just have to recognize them. We have to accept them. We have to be grateful and give thanks for them. And then we have to try to be a miracle for others in that cycle. And so that story was one of those pivotal moments. But
your mom's comment to you that you heard, even in the room that she passed, is reminiscent of the Apostle Paul's word in the book of Colossians in the New Testament, where he says, "Whatever you do it wholeheartedly as unto the Lord." And that is a similar kind of concept, that do what you were meant to do. Go out and do it well. Do it as if you were doing it for God Himself. Whether the task is small, whether the task is great. If you knew that it was the Lord Himself who said, "Would you take that person a cup of cold water? Would you do that for me?" Oh, you'd be so honored. "I will do this for you, God. And I will do this for you, Lord." As a Christian, I speak as one. And you do that, even though it's a very small task to take somebody a cup of water. But Jesus said, if you've done even that, to the very least of these, it's like you've done it for me. And that's the reminder that your mom was giving you.
That's beautiful,
Yeah.
Greg. I know our time's well spent, but one other thought, and this is not to flex, to just say that, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints love the Bible too. But John 14:7, because we've been talking about turbulent times and difficulties and looking for something in that. To me, that scripture also came to mind, because in that moment where I needed some peace, the Lord gave me that peace in a way only He could grant me. There was no other comfort that I could have gotten from the world. And at least in the King James Version that I know, My peace I give unto you, my peace I leave with. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Right?
Yeah.
Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid.
Yeah.
That those words resoundingly came to me. My peace I give unto you. Right? My peace I leave with
And
you.
both times that Jesus walked into the presence of his disciples after he had resurrected, according to the scripture, the first thing he said to them was, peace be with you.
Yeah.
And some people ask the question, was he just like greeting them in that way, or was like, could it have been almost like a command, an exhortation? Hey, I'm here. Peace be with you. Receive my peace. Walk in my peace. Live in my peace.
I love that. It's not passive
Yeah.
necessarily. It's
not like just
something
hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, peace be with you.
Yeah.
It's a nice way of looking at it. Kind of
Exhortation to
more than just a
We
passive
so need
reading.
that these days, don't we?
Yeah.
turbulent world.
Well, I know our time is done, and we're going to wrap up for our audience sake. But been a great chat with you and a great conversation. I was going to say I was holding this off, but one of my favorite memories, you once invited me to a gentleman who was hosting the vice president, not yet to be, Mike Pence, at his home, and you had just come from Comic-Con, and somehow you got Lou Ferrigno to join the party up at the house. And
We had the Veep and the Hulk.
so I got to meet the vice president. He was not yet the vice president, the governor of Indiana, Mike Pence. He was running with Donald Trump at the time. And they were campaigning in Utah, and he was campaigning. So I got to meet him, and I told him, I said, I think I was invited here because I'm an evangelical, and you're an evangelical, and they wanted to make you to feel a little more comfortable in this community. And it was a good laugh line. And then I chatted with the Hulk, and the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno has kind of a, he's because of his hearing problem. He's not always easy to understand. It's his speech and whatnot. I didn't have a clue what he said, but I acted like, great point, great. Oh, that's a great point, because I was afraid of him.
You don't want to.
He shook my hand. I felt like I was a 4-year-old child. So,
that was Scott Keller's house. I remember
yes,
that.
That's right.
We've been to a lot of things together over the years.
Oh, wait, you brought in the guy that killed Osama bin Laden. What was his name?
Oh yeah.
You remember him?
Robert O'Neill.
Oh my goodness, what an experience that was to go to the evening present. I mean, you've opened up a lot of doors. Hey, Kanye West.
Oh wow! Can we talk about that for half a second? Oh my goodness!
I mean, my kids thought I was a star.
Well, and that came through the evangelical community, because it was a assistant pastor that had called me and said, "Hey, Ye's had a vision, and he needs to do this in Salt Lake, and you're the only one who can help us pull this off." Yeah, and I was like, "Next spring," and he's like, "No, this weekend." And I'm like, "What? That's like 72 hours away." And they wanted to do it downtown Salt Lake, and I'm like, "Hey,
it was General Conference weekend."
General Conference weekend. Everything's like locked up, and Ye's like, "Nope, we're doing it." So everything was Ye's vision, and I was the one who had to call the LDS church leadership and say, he's not doing this provocatively. This isn't a spirit of wanting to worship together, and we're going to do it in between the conference sessions.
There was
there's no conflict
or contest. It wasn't trying to make a statement or anything.
I had to talk to his pastor for a while, just be like, "Hey, look, I know you're going to give a long sermon. Could you not make this about the temple or anything else?" And to his credit, it was. But we packed it. Oh my gosh! Speaking of miracles, nobody got hurt. Nobody. We didn't get a lot of support from the local PD, and Ye wanted everybody on the stage.
Yes. You got closer, and finally, you, it being concerned for your wife and children, said, "We got to get on the stage and go out the back door." And I'm like, "We're going with him."
Come on, Pastor, let's go.
I don't care if he's
the crush of the crowd. They were
they were getting closer and closer. We've had some fun experiences. It's been a real privilege, and I hope that we can stay friends well beyond December 31st.
More
or
than
whatever.
friends, we're brothers and sisters. We're family. And
does your term end on December 31st, or when is it?
Not technically. It ends when the new AG gets sworn in sometime in January. So you're stuck with me all the way until 2025.
Well, we have one more meeting with you, as I understand it, and it's going to be a celebration meeting.
Yeah, we're
going to thank you for the privilege of serving the state of Utah, the great state of Utah.
Jill, thanks.
Yes, thank you so much for coming and talking with our audience. This has been a great discussion.
I hope that you have all enjoyed it, being with our...
You're going to have to edit a lot, guys. Sorry. To get it down.
This is an attorney general unlike many others. You're much more, you're not stoic. You're not stuffy. You're not suit and tie, formal.
We
You're
didn't
just really
even get to Comic-Con or Skinwalker Ranch or some of these other Evermore places that we've taken
yes.
you to.
Oh boy. Oh
All
boy.
right.
All right. Well, we
Well,
are
thank
so
you.
honored to have you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to. We always appreciate that. And we'll see you next time on Building Bridges with Greg and Jill.